First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Johnny Cruz, here from Los Angeles. Went to Alexander Hamilton High School here in LA, graduated from Cal State Northridge. And, throughout, my life, I really had a passion for sports. And around 2011 is when I met my business partner, Justin Giagrande, who is the founder of the Network Advisory. And we started back then, 2011, Inclusive Sports Marketing Agency, which we grew to 30 clients, including Mercedes Lewis, who's UCLA alumni, Martavis Bryant from Clemson, Robert Comdici, who's the former #1 high school player in the nation, who went to Ole Miss and went first round in the 2015 NFL draft. And from there, I can name a bunch more names, but what I want to do is do quick intros to everyone here on the panel. We have a special guest here. Let me start with first Stephon Johnson, who is a USC grad, who played for USC as a running back, and is now the head coach at Dorsey High School. So, Stephon.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Eric Nelson, who is father of Malachi Nelson, the #1 high school player in the nation in 2023, who's here to share some knowledge on his journey with NIL. And next, we have Justin Giagrande, founder of the Network Advisory. And next, right here next to me, we have Dr. Norris Dorsey, who will explain the business of NIL. So we're going to kick it off with the first question with Dr. Norris Dorsey. Dr. Dorsey, as a college professor, what is your stance on the business of NIL?
Well, how you guys doing? One of the things that I've learned over the years in teaching business and entrepreneurship is paperwork makes the paperwork. And so now that NIL is, a mainstay in the athletics, the college athletics, as well as the high school athletics, we're trying to get the parents and the team around that young person to understand they need to be in business on paper, legitimately. And, my take on it is obviously a corporation, some type of foundation, some type of trust has to be established for these young people in order to avoid some of the tax implications of having a bunch of money early on will bring.
Got it. All right. Thank you. And next, Justin Giagrande. As founder of the Network Advisory, you have been at the forefront of NIL. Walk us through the beginning as Supreme Court communicated to the NCAA that student athletes can now get compensated for their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. It's only 3 years ago, but it feels like every day in NIL is like a dog year because it's just wild and crazy. But yeah, I'm glad to have Eric here because my NIL journey has been really interesting. I as Johnny said, I work with a lot of professional athletes, and in 2020 had the opportunity to meet some high-profile potential NIL athletes, which then led me to a phone call in July of 2021. I'll never forget it. It was July 21st of 2021 from Eric Nelson. And I was in Vegas, and we did a Zoom. And I remember, he said, so college NIL is going on. What is the deal with high school NIL? I said, Eric, that is a very good question. I do not know the answer, but I will go find it out. And so myself and a prominent sports attorney went to CIF, got a hold of them and said, what is the deal with high school NIL? And I'm expecting them to come back to me and say 3 years, 2 years, go F yourself, one of those things, and they say to me, they call me back an hour later and they say, well, looking at our bylaws, we just follow college, and so NIL is legal. And I call him back and say, I got an update for you. And at the time, what was interesting is his son was going to commit to Oklahoma. So we thought that that was a really interesting moment from a media perspective, or, just to capture a fan base or do a brand partnership. That was where he was thinking. And so, I'll never forget it. They put out a tweet an hour later that high school NIL was legal. And so, I give Eric a lot of credit because he was the first person to raise his hand and say, what's the deal? Which, if you really think of it, look at the impact high school NIL has had on the overall NIL. Georgia just approved it the other day, what seems wild because we've been here in California with high school NIL for now almost 3 years. And so, a lot of the business mechanics and how kids are recruited and all of that have to do with, Eric kind of standing up and saying, what's the opportunity there? So that's been my journey. Personally, just insanely, been in sports representation my whole life from the marketing side, insanely passionate about the ability that NIL gives for athletes to build their brand at an insanely early level. Malachi is a generational talent, so the opportunity, we see things happen with Tom Brady and all of these superstars, Kevin Durant, but what was appealing to me to be able to work with Malachi when he was 16 or 17 is, what does that platform look like for someone his age that we know is going to be a superstar? Can he build business units that, God forbid, someday something happens to him, he's okay walking away with the game? And so, I joke sometimes with parents that one of my proudest moments will be is if we do an equity-based deal when the kid's 16 or 17 and he decides to retire after he goes to college. He says, I'm going to retire because I hit $100 million on this equity exit. I would be pretty proud. So that's it.
Great answer. So a good segue. Eric, you are the parent of the #1 high school player in the nation in 2023. How were you able to navigate and make decisions for your son, Malachi Nelson, with NIL?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. So I think for us, at 5 years old, I'll never forget it. My son said, Dad, I want to be a professional football player. And I think every 5-year-old told their dad that. But, as a dad, I want to do anything that I can to just empower my kids. And so people never plan to fail. They fail to plan. So literally at 5 years old, we said, okay, that's what you want to do. So we started working backwards, right? From 5 years old, that's what you want to do. You can't just go day to day or you're going to get lost in the sauce. And so, when we talk about brand and steps and making moves, we were literally doing that, trying to be a season or a chapter ahead in life. And so, in high school, we were already thinking about college, and we were already in college. Now we're trying to think about what's next. And so when that phone call with Justin arose, we were already trying to build a brand, trying to navigate, trying to really see how this thing works. And so it started from the background. We're blessed to have Dr. Dorsey here because that is of the utmost importance. There's legalities, there's taxation implications, there are all these different things that really come into place. And so I was kind of trying to get prepared and up to speed on those types of things before the NIL because the money is easy, right? And, the NIL deals, any student athlete who is putting themselves in a position, that's the easiest part, is maybe to get a deal, maybe to get some money. But I think, what you do with that and how you do that is of the utmost importance. And so navigating, we had already tried to build a team. And I think that's if I could share anything with anybody here who, whether you're a student athlete and you're looking to get into NIL, whether you're a parent, whether you're into representation, it's building a team because Malachi was the one, right? He was the captain. I tried to tell him, you got to build yourself a team. We're going to put people around you to help you navigate these waters so you can keep the main thing the main thing. The 5-year-old dream stayed the same. He wanted to be a professional athlete. And so you never get lost in the sauce along the way because some people right now are making decisions based off money, right? And when you make decisions based off money, that's never the goal. Now, if my 5-year-old son told me he wanted to be a millionaire, we probably wouldn't be playing football. We'd probably, I would have taught him how to trade and how to get into the business aspect at an early age. I think it was somewhere in the Bible, the prophet Notorious B.I.G. said, more money, more problems. Okay, so so with the problems and those types of things, we just wanted to build a team around him, people that we could trust, people that we can build with, and that we can move forward. And as a father, my job was just to protect him and to help guide him along the way and to help build pillars. His thing is, fashion, football, faith, and philanthropy. And so when we're dealing with NIL stuff, if it doesn't fit within that, I think Justin will tell you, we've turned down 6-figure deals. People think we're nuts. And it's like, no, we just don't want to do that. It doesn't You know, you're not going to catch Malachi wearing something that he doesn't believe in. You're not going to see, you know, Malachi, you know, in a commercial with something he doesn't like. He's like, I don't care about the money. I want to do this. And so when you kind of work backwards, you have a plan. It's easy when this stuff comes, right? Money's not the goal. His goal is here, and to be able to protect and to navigate these waters is an exciting time. But it's never the goal. NIL is not the goal. It's just a resource. It's a blessing, man. It's a blessing and a curse like anything, right? No other occupation can you work 15, 16, 17, 18 years and not get paid, right? That's crazy. Like, you know, Malachi started playing football at 5 years old. And, you know, he got his first NIL check at 17 years old. So 12 years he worked. You know, I don't think anybody out there would work 12 years for free. And so when people say that, you know, so to be able to do that, but at the same time, you know, getting paid is long-term. NFL, that's what he wants to do. We always say NFL over NIL, but it's a blessing, you know what I mean? And it's awesome.
So bottom line, not all money's good money.
Not all money's good money. You can't.
All right. Stefan, you came back to your high school at Dorsey High School to coach. How has the landscape changed in the high school level in regards to NIL in the state of California?
It's a beautiful thing just having this panel together because it kind of went through a little trickle-down effect. You have the professor, you have the two CEOs of a company, and you have the parent of the actual entity. Who is that player? Who's that kid? And I was that kid. So growing up and being a number 2 player in the country, coming out of high school, understanding the different nuances that you have, because the person that leaves out that front door with your parents is not the same one that comes in that door. So what I mean by that is the pressures and the things that comes on a day-to-day basis between those NIL deals is a little bit different. You know, what I mean by that is it's a lot of pressures. There's a lot of pressures that are put onto you. Whether it's just getting a free food. In my era, it wasn't the money. It wasn't the $12,000 a year. It wasn't those things. It was the free food from the nearest diner, or it's a free ticket to go to a basketball game or anything like that. But that comes with the pressures of is this kid a good kid? What is he putting on social media? What is his everyday like? Does he cuss out teachers? Does he not go to school on time? All these different things plays a part that they tell us about, but that's a pressure that we have to deal with. When you have other people around you that doesn't have that same mindset. So my goal, me coming back, is the ones that don't have those resources and a parent that reached out and looked and asked and Googled and say, what is the NIL thing about? Or having the connections to get a part of the CEO of this big marketing mogul to know how to keep my son abrupt and clean cut and know what to say and how to say and what to do. So me coming back and the kids that don't have these resources is for me to just let them know, okay, look, you can do this, but this is how we got to go about it. And this is how we have to alleviate any mistakes that I have made when it was just the diner ticket or the free food. Now you have a little bit more at stake, and we wouldn't imagine that you have to make these type of decisions at 16, 17, 15 years old. So now you do. And how do you go about that, and how do you make those changes and navigate, like you said, in life?
Right. So it's safe to say here there's an advantage in living in the state of California because NIL is basically green-lit in the high school level and in the college level. So, Justin, what do you think are the advantages, though, living in California as a student athlete?
The advantages of living in California, you know, as a student athlete, no question, is the opportunity for the entertainment side. I think we're seeing more and more NIL. You know, 2021, people still thought it was illegal. 2022, brands started actually paying attention and spending. 2023, you're now going to see big media companies in the space. You know, you're going to see documentaries. I'm not going to name them, but I know Amazon and Netflix, and there's multiple entities that have already bought series that you're going to be seeing NIL talent in. We're actually developing some as we speak. So for me, that's like a litmus that those opportunities now present itself. And if you're in California, we're sitting here at UCLA, you have USC, both big media and entertainment schools. That trickle-down effect, if you're at those schools or have access to meet with these companies, you're going to be able to build your brand. Ultimately, now everyone in society understands NIL is big. I think it's not going away. I think we're about to have a 12-team playoff next year, and I think we're about to see, you know, the next 12 years, 10, 12 years of college sports fandom picking up. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think that it's great to see all the most prominent, athletes and alumni coming back to their schools. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. We always hear the word boosters, but I think there's a lot of athletes who are retired or even out of the pros, but were legendary college athletes. They're able to come back and give back and be relevant again. So I think it's super exciting. And I think we all know that California is one of the most taxed states, so I think it's great that there's probably more opportunity out here that you can kind of make that back. That's my perspective is, if you're here, you should take advantage of what exists here that's not somewhere else, and that's the media and entertainment space to build your brand.
Got it. Dr. Dorsey, question for you. In your perspective on the business side of the NIL, how important is it for parents to learn about the NIL? I know you touched on having contracts, but you, like Eric Nelson said, you have to have a team around you of lawyers, financial planners, contract negotiators. What else is needed?
That's a good question. Just in doing some research, I got a lot of friends who has a lot of kids who are at universities and, they're in the NIL. And so what I found out is that it's a tiered system. Obviously the top athlete of the school makes the most money. Then there's the athlete that plays a lot. They come in second. Then there's the athlete that gets on the field, probably plays a quarter of the time. They come in third. And then there's the athlete that don't play at all, that's on the team. They get the bottom of the barrel. And so because it's a tiered system, obviously some players are going to make more than the others, and the parents have to understand where their kid falls into that tier, right? And they have to plan accordingly. And, setting up a foundation, setting up a LLC, putting yourself, incorporating your name, putting yourself in business is a part of the parents' learning and the young person's learning. When you start adulting and you start understanding that, parents have been paying rent, okay, it's time for you to help out, then that money, that expense that you have becomes more important, and you don't want to get taxed at an enormous rate because you make a lot of money as a young person. You rather, defer some of that taxes, allow you to build up a nest egg, and that's what the parents got to understand. It's not that you want to take from the kid and, all of a sudden you got money and everything. No, that's a kid's money. Don't touch it. It's like the Gary Coleman rule. That's why the Coogan law became in effect. Gary earned that money, not the parents. And so as a parent, you have to understand the responsibility to help your seed protect that money, and so you don't get taxed. So I think a lot of the business side of it is a two-way street. The parents and the young person, the young adult, has to understand that if they're going to be a breadwinner, they have to know certain things in life and certain responsibilities and certain ways to protect their money. One parent that I talked to in particular had their person start a retirement account. So they got the NIL money, and instead of just spending it, they then deferred it, put it into a retirement account. That account makes compound interest, so they can maximize the money to put into the account each year. And so when it's time to retire, and by the way, I just recently retired, and when it's time to retire, you got $1.5 million, $2 million. I would think that there has to be workshops on financial literacy education. There has to be workshops on name, image, and likeness because it's new, and it's one of those areas that's, the wild, wild west, so to speak, right? And so the people that are learning about it early and learning about it often are going to be in front. And so as teachers or as parents, you got to learn about it. And so I just asked 3 or 4 of my parent friends that have young people in college, and every system, every college is different, right? So they have a different NIL rule for each college. Notre Dame is different from Virginia. Virginia is different from UCLA, USC. So you have to learn what each system allows. That way you're better educated as far as the taxes, and that's all, I'll add if anybody else wants to add something.
Eric, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think it's, you only know what you know, and so this whole NIL, it's constantly moving and evolving. I think what it is today, it's not going to be the same next year, and so I think, continuously educating. But I can just speak for my son. He's a student athlete, right? And so like his first semester in college, Dean's List. That's what I want him to do, right? He's had a surgery in January. He's healing. He's learning playbooks and those types of things. And so the trickle down effect for him as an 18-year-old, I don't want to crush this kid, right? And so my job is to get an accountant. The accountant, eliminating tax liabilities and those types of things, protecting him from that, get a marketing team. And now I run everything. So I'm, his dad, but I'm also his manager, I'm his protector, I'm his father, I'm his friend, I'm all these different things. And so I give it to him, I weed through all this stuff, and then I present to him, hey buddy, look, we got this deal, this is this, boom, 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 boom. And then, because ultimately he's the business. He's the business. He's the boss, right?
We all work for him.
We all work for him. You know what I mean? You don't know what happened. All of a sudden, my 18-year-old son is, I'm working for him now. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Like, what's going on? But, I'm working for him because he's still chasing his dreams. Why? NIL's not the money. He doesn't care about NIL. He doesn't care about the money. His goal was to play in NFL. He would do it for free because when you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. And so he loves football. He loves ball. He don't love accounting, but he has to learn it because he's got high overhead. It's out there. He bought a house at 18 years old. And so, he's got a couple cars, so he's running a business, you know what I'm saying? So, but he doesn't, that's nothing to him. And when we talk about liability, right, it's like you can only buy so many shoes, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, you good? You got some cologne? You smell good? You look good? You feel good? Okay, go buy something. Go, start setting up generational wealth. So when we talk about literacy, those things are going to come, and it's just our perspective, you know what I mean? Because it's impossible from what we looked at is if you're the number one high school player in the country, okay, you love football, you're getting a 4.0 GPA, and now I expect you to know accounting and marketing and all this other stuff and look through deals. No, so it's like, that's where the team comes in, and, and that's why you can't do it. It literally takes a village, and when you're building a team, our team, we don't do business, it's family business. And so the people we started with, we're still with. Because now that, he's, as you grow and as you get bigger, everything's going to get new, right? Now everybody wants to come. When he was a junior and at Los Alamitos High School, I didn't have some of these people calling me, but now it's like, okay, we're keeping here. We got to realize.
One crazy person calling him. You said one crazy.
Yeah, so, so I think the team and his knowledge and understanding is going to grow, and you're going to put people in place. And, that's our motto, you know what I mean? And we got it from, really, we looked at LeBron James, right? We're in LA. I think LeBron James is the best example when you're talking about building a brand. As I looked at LeBron, okay, I loved the way his marriage looked. For my son, I said, man, that's what I want for you. I looked at him as a father. I looked at him as a businessman. LeBron, I think, covers all. And so I started looking at his team. It's not rocket science, right? When you just simplify it, it's so complicated. But when you look, it's like LeBron is not just a basketball player. He's the biggest superstar in the world. You look at his team, whether it's Mav, whether it's Rich, whether it's all these. And so we're blessed to live in LA and see and kind of get a close look. LeBron ain't doing that. LeBron is he's the face, but he's got people around him that will allow him to be the best basketball player in the world. And so I think, kids need to know enough to be dangerous. They need to grow and they need to learn. And I think that's our job to give it to them. But for me, I think it's impossible to do that. And that's just with my son. You know what I mean? Because I know if he was taking all this stuff and doing all this stuff, he couldn't be who he is. 'Cause there would be no business. Because now where am I going to train? He's training 6 hours a day. Now, if I take those 6 hours and I say, hey, buddy, I need you to look over this contract. Now, I took 2 hours. I just miss extra work. You know what I mean? So I think the team is important, and that's where it's the most important, where you got to have people that you trust and you support, because you see people get burned,
Perfect. Thank you. We spoke about that not all money is good money. Justin, walk through the process of now student athletes can negotiate on behalf of themselves on the school that they end up through the NIL collective, through that process.
Sorry, say that one more time.
So walk us through the process. Now student athletes can now choose, based off the collective on where they end up. on what they're offering to the student athlete?
Well, first off, obviously they can't offer anything formally to them before they go to the schools, but at the same time, what I'm seeing is the collectives and the schools are now allowed to show what kind of resources and support. They can't say this is exactly what it's going to be for you, but they can say, look, we had a comparable player in your position last year, and this is the data to show what that is, right? I'm just going to be transparent, the leverage, I would say, that the players have is that now they can transfer at any point. So, there is a free market here going on. At the end of the day, just like NFL free agency or NBA free agency, you have players that are now free to move around, right? And certain schools value players more than others, right? They might have different positions and needs. I don't think, and what I've always said from, I have an interesting purview because I came from the pros, then I got into college, and then I got into high school. So, what I say is that at the end of the day, when I'm talking to parents about them choosing a school, never base it off of NIL, okay? NIL, as Eric just said, is a piece of the pie now. It's an equation piece. If it was not there before, it's now the fourth tier, right? You pick your coaches, the school, the academics. Okay, finances is now one piece of it. I've had many parents, absolutely, and kids, they've a lot of times choose the school that maybe is not going to give the most financial support because it's about the long-term picture. And I think that goes back to what Eric said, never picking a school based on that. So I think there's definitely schools that are more proactive and are able to educate the kids on what this looks like. And there's also schools that were just really out in front of this and kind of got the organization to it. I think I'm just going to speak to, I'm a Florida Gator, but University of Tennessee was way out in front of this, and they've been very organized from the beginning, which I think has probably led to the resurgence of their football program. So, I think it's interesting never making decisions based on the NIL, just kind of looking as another spoke of the decision when you go there.
Thank you. Stefan, how do you protect your student athletes on the team in regards to the whole NIL landscape to focus on football? How important is that?
Everything sounds good that we've been talking about on this panel, but if you don't produce, if you don't do the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, you will never get to the accountant, you'll never get to any of that. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is when you say building your brand is what do you bring to the table besides being a football player? Or if you are a football player, how good are you? How consistent are you? Are you going to continue to do these type of things when we do put you on a yearly salary, monthly salary, or whatever the case may be, is how can you maintain that? I think that the subject of when I first got the invitation to speak at this panel was getting the bag, keeping the bag, and how you maximize it. And when I look at that is how do you get the bag first? Getting the bag is producing, doing the things you're supposed to do, keeping a clean face, and understanding that the things that your parents are telling you to do, whether being on time and things like that, all takes priority and precedence. And how you get the bag after that is keep on producing, being consistent, and being those people that's aware they can be out here saying that in 2 hours I got this deal that needs to be done, that you don't have to even worry about that type of things. It's going to happen regardless. So putting yourself in a great opportunity, whether it's what you do on a day-to-day basis, is going to accumulate and it's going to come out to those NIL deals that they speak of. But you got to produce. You got to do those things to get that. And building your brand is who are you, either on the field and off the field, that tell these brands that I really want you. You're set. You can make our brand bigger than what it really is. Yeah.
Can I just back that up? I mean, in this NIL space, the brands are watching week to week. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this transparently, like when athletes don't produce, the brands are the first ones to run. They're the first. When you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. That's a fact. So, I think it's even more than even pro sports. In NIL world, everything's week by week. So keeping the consistency is number one and keeping the focus.
All right, we'd like to
Can I
open it up.
piggyback on that 1 second?
Go ahead.
And when we're talking about, the protection and the producing and those types of things, brands, when you think they are partnering with you to help enhance their business. And so it's the production. He touched on it's on the field. You guys are athletes, students, so it's grades, student athletes, but it's also, I've had so many brands talk about Malachi's social media. What he listens to pregame and what's in that beats, whether it's Young Boy or whatever it may be, that might not be on his mixtapes, on his things, right? They want, they don't want, they want a certain type of off the field image, right? You know what I mean? And so I think it's the whole package, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm sure you guys hear about it, but the social media is important because if I'm a brand, I'm reaching out to you, how do I get to know you? Okay, I talk to your coach, okay, I see you producing, I see the transcripts, and then I can really get to know you on the social media. It's like, okay, wow, it's clean. All right, these are the type of people. So it's important. So I guess as a dad, I see a lot of young people out here. I'm sure you're hearing a lot from your parents. How many of you guys have heard social media is important? I want to tell you guys again, it's so important. Because you guys can market yourself and be marketable. Maybe you're not producing. It's all about checking boxes. Sometimes, you know what I mean, like, you can get stuff as well, like, hey, you had a bad season, you had a bad year, but look, man, look at their social media, the way they produce themselves, the way they put themselves. It might resonate with a certain kind of brand that might not care about you as an athlete, but like, wow, you know what? They got a good look. They got a good, all that type of stuff. So it's the whole package.
Stefan, something you want to add?
Oh, no, I just basically, that was the main component of where that protection is going to come from. Social media, I think, is the biggest default for our young kids right now. What I mean by that is it's the gift and the curse. It can make you a lot of money, and it can definitely take it away from it. So something so simple as putting a blue heart and saying happy C-Day can cost you $100 million, whereas somebody else can do it, and you feel as if they did it, and, they're still being successful, but that's not you. Your brand is still in the process of being built, like we always speak about. So we can't do the same things that a person has already been established. So that's where that protection comes into play, because everywhere else it looks good. It looks like it's supposed to happen this way. And sometimes we have a couple of ones that slip through the crack, like, some of the NFL guys or the college guys that do certain things that slip through the crack. And you're like, wait, man, he did it, but why can't I? We're in a different situation right now. You're trying to build yourself.
Question? Right.
Okay, this is more of a statement. We have high school student athletes in the audience, and I'm going to ask them if they can stand up. Anybody who's actually an athlete in high school, can you please stand up? First of all, I want to give these people a round of applause because they got here, they're in the room. And we haven't had time to have them ask individual questions. Maybe we can do some of that in the hallway.
What school are you guys from? How come you know? What sport do you guys play? Basketball, track?
Cheer.
Love it.
We got some basketball players also.
All right.
He's ready to go to four-year university.
Awesome.
And so the one thing I would like to say before the panel ends, what's the archetype of the individual student athlete would you like to look for if you were a brand? What would be the archetype?
I think Justin can answer that one. We talk about that all the time.
I mean,
You guys can grab a seat.
the archetype is, well, first and foremost, portraying who you are on social media, if that makes sense, because that, first of all, what Eric said, that's where they're going to find you. The first thing they're going to do is go to your Instagram. I mean, they're going to go to your Instagram, your TikTok. So just being you, but at the same time, also what Stefan said, realizing they're going to be looking, so cleaning it up and keeping it more professional. Eric and I tell Malcolm all the time, he is a business. Whether he wants to accept that or not, he's a walking, living business, okay? So that's the second piece. As far as an archetype, what I've seen is in the NIL space, brands are excited to partner with talent that are excited about actually doing the campaign. Of course, money comes along with it, but, what we're seeing as compared to pros, the college and high school kids are excited about doing these endorsement deals, which means they're giving more effort. Candidly, when you have a pro athlete who's made $20 million a year, is he really excited to go do a half-day production shoot with, I'm not going to use a brand's name, but with X brand. Whereas when you go do it with a college athlete, this is exciting to them. Wow, this brand has recognized that I'm good at sports, that I'm personable, and they're invested money in me. So what I'm realizing is those athletes that handle themselves professionally, like once that opportunity is presented, because brands all speak to each other and everyone gets a track record of like how you do. So that first opportunity, when you get that from a brand, delivering your social media deliverables, making it easy, being excited when you're speaking to the brand about thanking them for the opportunity, because ultimately people do business with people they want to do business with. That's the truth. So that's, hopefully that kind of gives you an answer of like keeping your social media clean, portraying who you are. When you get that first opportunity, treat it as a business transaction and treat yourself professionally.
Question over there?
Thanks for all the advice you're giving. So now talks about being a person, you're a business, you're still carrying yourself as a business, and you're walking around as a business, you're making money for yourself, and you're building your brand. But I think that there's a big gap between transition from being an athlete and focusing for 12 years, becoming an athlete, now I'm gonna become a business. Right? So what books, what blogs, what talks, where do you find this information? So me as a student athlete, I can start thinking as a business, the minute I start thinking about that football, or that basketball, like, what do you recommend?
Let me jump in and address that first. As a college instructor, professor, for the last 23 years, I get students into my class that don't know nothing about business, right? And so what I would tell you young people out there is that everything is a business, okay? From the minute you're a baby to the minute you are right now, it's all business, right? It's not personal. And so what you have to understand is you need to learn more about how to conduct yourself as a business. When I started teaching, before I started teaching, I was kind of, in the club and just doing different things. And somebody said to me, "You're a college professor, but you hanging out?" And I thought about it and I go, people are seeing different side of me that they didn't expect to be me. And so you guys got to understand, when you start posting stuff on your social media and it ain't becoming of you, the smoking or the drinking or whatever the case may be, you're giving other people a chance to judge you. And not that you care about it, but the point is that you're a business. And so if you want that contract, if you want that, that deal, you got to understand that you got to treat every moment as an opportunity to get that contract or to get that deal. And so for the people that's been training all their life and all of a sudden they've been thrown into the business, you got to learn fast. You got to learn quick how to be an adult.
And remember, your business name is your Instagram handle. Okay, it ain't get a bag, da-da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? All that's your business name, and so you gotta represent, it starts there. This is your business name. Malachi's name is always Malachi. Malachi. You know what it is in the handle? It's Malachi Nelson. That's as simple as that, because that's his business. I don't want it, dropping dimes, QB, light skin killer, all that. Stop, man. What are you doing? None of that stuff. That ain't your business, man. Stop with all that crazy stuff. But he's young. In his mind, that's it. But this is the business. That's where the team around you, people to tell you the truth, people to be honest with you, people to help you get where you want to go. And I know we got to wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up. Give it up to the panel. Give them a hand. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Brother Kevin Clark and the Anderson School of Business here at UCLA. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can do this again next year. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.